So here we go. Let's look. You guys talk me through this now. Like I said, I want you to please have your notebooks out and please get good notes on this, so you'll have something to look at to jog your memory when you're doing this stuff. Okay, so what are we going to do first here, and why? Should be over here.
It goes from 4.5 to 7.7.
There's no 4.6 there? Okay, I'll have to print some more. I'll do that. So, what do we do first? Subtract 2x squared. Good. Yeah. So what's the advantage of that? What am I getting on the right side? 0, which is what I want, right? I want 0 on the right side. On the left side, what's 3x squared minus 2x squared? Good. Minus 8x plus 17. Okay, so this is important because now what I've gotten here is a quadratic equation in standard form. Okay, we need that. Once I put it in standard form, now I can try to solve this thing. So what are my options? Can I isolate x? No. How come? You're right. Because again, do two different x values. You got an x squared term and an x term, so I can't isolate x. That strategy's crossed off for this problem. Can I factor this thing? Do magic numbers exist that multiply to 17 and add to negative 8? They do not. So I got to cross that strategy off. So I move on down the line. What's my next strategy? Completing the square. Okay, so let's try that. Is this going to be a good candidate for a problem I can solve by completing the square? Yeah. It is, isn't it? It's a good candidate because look what's going to happen. I've got a is equal to 1 and b is equal to an even number, right? So b over 2 is not going to be a fraction. So this is one we can easily do by completing the square, isn't it? Okay? All right, so now we got to complete the square. What's my first step? Subtract 17. And the reason for that is, step 1 is I need to get my equation in the form x squared plus bx space equals a number, like c, right? Okay, so to do that, I'm going to subtract 17 for both sides. And that gives me x squared minus 8x space equals negative 17. Okay, good. What's step 2? Okay, b over 2 is what? Negative 4, right? Now I'm going to put a circle around that because that is going to eventually be my magic number, right? But what do I want to add to both sides? Okay, good. B over 2 squared. So I'm going to add to both sides negative 4 squared. Well, what is that? Again, negative 4 squared is 16. So I'm adding 16 to both sides. Okay, what's that give me then? I'm getting x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals negative 1. Okay, now what? Okay, good. So I'm going to factor. Step 3. Factor, but look, I've already got my magic number. Okay. Right? So I'm getting, what does this side factor into? The magic numbers that multiply to 16 and add to negative 8 are negative 4 and negative 4. I only get one magic number twice when I do this, right? So I'm getting x minus 4 squared equals negative 1, right? Okay, now I'm done completing the square. Now what's next? Okay, good. I'm just gonna isolate x, right, from this point on. I'm gonna put a line under this, because this is where we changed is isolating x. We completed the square. Now, isolate x. And the first thing to do is square root. So let's do that. So if I square root a square, they cancel. And I get x minus 4 equals, what do I have to include if I square root? Plus or minus. And then what's the square root of negative 1? 5. Okay, and we get that because I've got that negative there, right? Okay, then last step, add 4. And I'm going to put it in front of the plus or minus. So my final answers, there's 2 of them, right? I get x equals 4 plus or minus I. 4 plus I and 4 minus I. Right? Okay? Let's do one of these just together, and then you guys can work. Okay, this is virtually the same problem. But I won't make you go to the boards. It takes too long. We'll get you going. So what do I do here then? Add 12x, because I got to get it in standard form, right? So that gives me 4x squared plus 48x plus 16 equals 0. Now what? Divide by 4. Yep, let's divide both sides through by 4. What do I get on the left? Equals 0. Okay? So we can't isolate x, right? We can't factor, because no magic numbers exist that multiply to 4 and add to 12. So what do? We square. Okay, so step number 1. Subtract 4. Because I've got to get x squared plus bx space equals c, right? So there's our x squared plus 12x equals negative 4. Okay, what's step 2? B over 2 equals so 6. Good. There's my magic number, right? So what am I adding to both sides then? 36. Good. 6 squared is 36, right? So I'm adding 36 to both sides, and that gives me, well, on this side I'm getting 32. When I factor, what do I get on the left side? X plus 6 squared. Good. Okay. And then I'm just, now all I've got to do is in this equation, look what I've done. I've turned this into an equation that I can solve by isolating now. Right? So now we'll square root. So that gives me my x plus 6 equals what? Plus or minus. And then I got to make a factor tree for 32, right? Okay, let's be really smart about this. If I can factor 32, what I'd really like to do is factor it into factors that include a perfect square. And the biggest perfect square, bigger the better. So what are perfect squares? Perfect square numbers? Okay, so I did 4, 9, because I'm squaring numbers, right? 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25, etc. Well, what's a big one that divides into 32? 16. 16 times 2, and why do I pick that? Because what does 16 break up into? 4 and 4, right? So I get a couple of 4s, single 2. So what what goes out then? 4. What stays in? 2. And then last step? Yeah, I'm gonna put it right there, aren't I? So -6. And so my two answers then are x equals -6 plus or minus 4 radical 2. Okay. Good? Okay, flip your desk around and work.